Hey guys, so welcome back. We're going to actually give you a little insight into a rocker guard install. We typically use GenRide Off-Roads kits. They fit and finish is really nice on them. I like the fact that they're aluminum, and then they work also with body lifts or without, and they require minimal trimming around a wide array of suspension kits. And Andy's going to go over with you the install on the other side of this Jeep.
First thing you're going to want to do is obviously get all the parts out of the box, go through everything, make sure it's all there. Get your hardware laid out on the table and go through all the hardware, check it against the instructions to make sure you got all the hardware you need to get started. And like they say in the instructions, read thoroughly through the instructions. This is not an extremely hard install, but if you don't follow the directions, you will ruin your Jeep. So you want to make sure you follow the instructions very clearly, make sure you check everything twice before you start drilling holes and stuff. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go over here to the Jeep. We gotta pull this fender bolt out right here. This bolt's gonna get used to attach the lower support for the slider itself. So the next thing we're gonna do, there's pre-existing holes in the body that this lower support is gonna bolt to. And depending on how the body alignment is, where the panels go on, the fenders meet the tub, you may need to drill some of these holes out. You can see, like on this one, this hole's not going to be quite big enough for the bolts that are provided for this lower support. So we're going to go through and drill some of these holes out, make sure they're big enough. This is what's called like a step bit or a unit bit. It's basically a drill bit that increases in size every step. This is the best type of drill bit to use when you're dealing with an existing hole that you're trying to enlarge, rather than trying to use a drill bit and running it through that hole, trying to make sure it's centered. These bits work best to make sure the hole stays centered on the existing hole that was already there. All right, so the next thing before you start installing stuff on the body, check to make sure this lower pinch weld is straight. On this particular Jeep, it had a set of sliders that were on here before, and this flange is bent back in. And if you start trying to bolt the new parts to this with it already bent like this, you're gonna end up with the pieces all twisted and distorted. So first thing, before we start putting any of the new parts on, make sure these flanges are straight. You can easily straighten this stuff out. Just find a pair of vice grips and grab this lip and kind of just massage it back into what it should look like. So this is going to install this way on the Jeep. We're going to go ahead and set all these nut plates on here. We got all the nut plates installed on the lower support. So we're going to grab our hardware and we're going to go get this set up on the Jeep. So when you're putting stuff like this on, it's best to get everything started hand tight. You don't want to put one bolt in and tighten it all the way down. You want to get all these things so that they're set up hand tight. That way everything has a little bit of room for movement. So once you got these all hand tight, all the bolts are in the holes, and you can go through and snug this thing down. These are going to be 1/2 inch. It's best to use a ratchet wrench because there's body mounts behind here, so anything else is going to get in the way. We got to put all the nut plates on the lower support that are going to hold the body armor onto the Jeep. So just like on the lower side, I'm just going to slide these over the holes. So we're going to grab the hardware to loosely install this side body armor. So we're going to set this up here now. We're going to basically use the holes that are in the lower support to help us line this up. So get all these started in here hand tight first. This piece has little pie cuts in it that's going to help it contour to the body of the Jeep. All right, so we're going to go through and tighten these bolts. They don't have to be super tight, but tight enough to hold this in place. And as you're going along here, go ahead and put firm pressure up against the body so that way this plate fits tight up against the body as you go. This is something that I would recommend. It's going to be a little bit more time consuming in the overall scheme of getting these put on, but tighten these bolts all the way down and get this thing completely set and tight, not only against the lower support, but against the body as tight as you can, because next thing we're going to do is we're going to drill holes through the holes that are in this armor, and the closer this is going to be to fitting, just like it will in the final product, the better finish you're going to have. So next step, this is going to be a 17/64 drill bit. This drill bit fits perfectly tight in the holes that they provide in this armor. So before you drill, step back, look at the piece, make sure it aligns around the doors. There is some adjustment that can be done. This one came out pretty good. It lines up really good the way it is right now. But if you've got something that's just off a little bit, loosen some bolts up, tweak some stuff around, and get that so that it fits perfectly. Because once we drill these holes, you won't be able to move this. So you want this to be exactly how you want it to fit when it's all finished. Again, when you're drilling the holes, make sure this stuff's not going to be super tight against the body. But as you're drilling the holes, press it up against the body, make sure it's tight. If you start drilling this with this a half an inch away from the body, the hole's going to be in a different spot than it needs to be. Once we've drilled all these pilot holes, this is basically just to get the alignment of the holes that are in the body armor panel. We're gonna pull this armor piece back off, and then we're gonna drill these holes out to the size needed to put the Nutserts in the body. So the next step is going to be drilling the holes out to a 25/64. This is going to be the correct size for these 1/4 inch Nutserts. So you're going to use the hole that we've already drilled as your pilot hole to center this new hole. So when it comes to these, just take your time and go slow and let the drill bit do the work. Next we're going to do is grab some of these Nutserts. This is a tool we're going to be using to set them. So when we're installing these Nutserts, you're going to open the tool all the way up, thread the thing down until it's tight, and then basically put this in the hole till it sits down flush. Pull these arms in, and then once it's seated like that, use the center nut to pull the thread back out. So once we got all the holes drilled and the Nutserts set, go through and blow this all out. Get all the metal shavings and stuff off of there, and get ready to put the armor back on. So same step as before, we're just gonna set this up here. So what we're gonna do is set this plate back up here, and we're gonna thread all these bolts into the Nutserts we put in and get all this stuff set in place. So this side we've already done. We did a little notch out for the tube and the fender back here. And then in the front, we just shaved the edge down just a little bit to give it a little gap there. So the final piece to installing the boat side rocker sliders is gonna be to put the factory body mount bolts back in. And then they provide a longer bolt with a spacer for the front body mount so that it has the right spacing. All right, so this is what it's gonna look like when it's all done. Just go ahead and slide this piece on here. You're gonna install these 1/4 20 stainless fasteners on the top, and then put the 3 body mount bolts back in, tighten those up, and you're pretty much done.
All right, guys, well, that wraps up the install for our GenRight rocker guards. We hope this gives you a little more insight of what we do in the shop when we put a set of these on, and a couple of tricks that we do to make the install a little bit easier. Until next time.